Hey guys, Damron here. In today's video, I want to tell you about 3 ways your hormones are affecting your sleep. I know so many women who struggle with falling asleep, staying asleep, feeling like they're well rested, their quality of sleep, and hormones play a huge role in this. So tune in today's video to learn just how. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit that button to be notified anytime I post content related to women's health, hormones, or holistic health. All right, guys, hormones is a general term for little chemical messengers. And when people talk about hormones, there's all kinds of different ones. We have like hundreds of hormones in our body. Today, specifically, we are talking about our blood sugar hormone, insulin, our stress hormone, cortisol, and our sex hormone, low progesterone. All 3 of them play a huge role in our sleep quality, depending on our age, time of cycle, all of those things. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first hormone that I think wreaks the most havoc on women's sleep is cortisol, in specific, high cortisol levels. So I want to kind of set the stage for you today about what high cortisol looks like. High cortisol basically means that our body's under some stress, and our cortisol level kind of comes to the rescue to help us cope with that stress. So all the time our brain is looking and scanning our environment for threats, dangers, scary things, too much overwhelm, things like that it might need to come to the rescue and help us with. So if it detects that stress and detects that, hey, she or he may not be able to cope quite as well as we need to this situation, it's gonna kind of send in the second gear, which is gonna be cortisol, adrenaline, some of our stress hormones. When cortisol is high, that's normal and fine. We actually want cortisol as part of our circadian rhythm, but we want it at the right time in the right amount of the day. So sometimes what happens is when we're stressed out a lot over kind of like a period of months to years, your body will start to produce too much cortisol too often. And when that happens, your cortisol level can be elevated, and especially stay elevated too long at night when it's supposed to come down and produce melatonin so that we can get into that nice deep sleep. So ideally, cortisol is high in the morning when we first wake up and then starts to kind of decrease throughout the day. So again, we can sleep at night. But again, sometimes when people look at blue light, are too busy throughout the day, don't let their nervous system come down, don't do a good bedtime routine, things like that, cortisol can actually stay elevated, which makes it hard to either stay asleep or fall asleep altogether. Some other symptoms of high cortisol, you may feel tired but wired. So you know underneath that you're tired, but you're just wired. You're going. Your brain might feel like lack of focus or motivation. You also might notice that you're anxious. You also might notice that you're coming down with like colds and flus or sicknesses more easily, lack of sleep, like I said, so like insomnia type stuff. You also might notice that your adrenaline's constantly going, kind of in terms of the anxiety and panic. All kinds of these things can happen. The other part with mood, you might notice more irritability. If you're in a burning building, which is where cortisol can be produced obviously in copious amounts, you're not gonna feel very patient. You're gonna feel like, get out of my way, I gotta get out of this. And obviously, hopefully most of you are not in a burning building each day, but our brain does feel in a way that we are in stress, we're in danger, and it better come to the rescue and produce too much cortisol. So some things that you can do for high cortisol is, number 1, you guys, blue light makes it look like daylight to our brain, and so it tells our brain to actually produce more cortisol. So putting blue light blocking glasses on in the evenings, dimming our lights down, really playing with our circadian rhythm instead of against it is immensely helpful for sleep. I generally recommend, if you can, trying to turn off screens about 60 minutes before bed. I know that's really tough for a lot of people right now. I struggle with it too sometimes, but that is a good rule of thumb, especially if you're having trouble with sleep. The other thing, like I mentioned, is doing a bedtime routine each night. So all day long, we are busy and moving and going and driving kids from place to place and, answering emails and talking to bosses and doing all the things. we need our nervous system to be able to come back down so that we're able to sleep well and kind of turn off that cortisol. So a bedtime routine can look like a shower, a nice cup of tea, a podcast, deep breathing, some yoga, lying in bed, some stretching, whatever feels good to you, some journaling, just to be able to kind of like let the dust settle from the day and kind of come down and teach your brain, hey, it's nighttime. In terms of supplements, there are also great supplements that can help lower cortisol. Things like GABA, L-theanine, ashwagandha, lemon balm, magnolia, magnesium, there's inositol. There's all kinds of great supplements that can help lower that cortisol, calm your nervous system down, and get you to sleep well. None of this is medical advice, so please always consult with your medical professional to know which one's best for you, what formula is best for you. You certainly do not need to take all of these things. There are great formulas that have a lot of them combined. And also there might be some that are right for you and some that aren't. So please consult with your medical professional. Number 2 is low blood sugar. So when we don't eat quite enough protein, fat, fiber, that's kind of the framework that I give my patients on how to balance their blood sugar to keep hunger, energy, cravings, mood, and sleep all in check. Sometimes we can be riding what's called a blood sugar roller coaster, where we eat too many carbohydrates, our blood sugar rises and then crashes and then rises and then crashes. And if your blood sugar is in not a great stable place, that can also keep you awake or make you wake up around the hours of like 1 to 3 in the morning. Your body is needing that quick glucose to come back up, so it can wake you up. And sometimes people are even hungry at that time and want to eat in the middle of the night. Not always, but blood sugar can definitely be something that keeps people up in the night. So one thing that I recommend, or a few things that I recommend to balance blood sugar, are just typical lifestyle suggestions for blood sugar. So strength training. Increased muscle mass will increase our insulin sensitivity, which is a positive thing. You may hear about insulin resistance, which means that our body needs more and more insulin to do the same job. We want our body to be super sensitive to insulin, which strength training and increased muscle mass can help with. We also want to walk. Walking, there's been just an exorbitant amount of studies lately that show the benefits of walking with dementia and early death prevention and cancer and type 2 diabetes and all these different things. Walking is wonderful at preventing type 2 diabetes and keeping our blood sugar in a stable range. Number 3 is eating that framework I was talking about. So getting adequate protein, about 20 to 30 grams in most meals for most people. About 30 grams of fiber a day is a good aim. Some people only need 20. So I'd say between 20 and 30 grams is a good aim of fiber. And about 1 to 2 tablespoons of healthy fats per meal for most adults. This will help, like I mentioned, keep all those things in check: hunger, energy, cravings, mood, and sleep, so that you are feeling good in all those areas. The other thing that's really helpful for blood sugar, which is sort of the chicken and the egg thing, is sleep. So when we sleep well, we actually have better responses to insulin. And when we don't have great responses to insulin, that also can keep us up at night. Much like the stress conversation before, where higher stress gives us less sleep is higher stress. So a lot of these things are sort of the chicken and the egg, in which we just need to break into the cycle somewhere. So make sure that you're following these recommendations for healthy blood sugar as well. If you're still having problems, you may consider eating a higher protein snack before bed to kind of help tide you over while you're continuing to work on blood sugar. The other thing that people do not talk about blood sugar a lot with is minerals. So things like magnesium and potassium and chromium are also imperative for healthy blood sugar levels. So make sure that you're getting those 3 things in through your food sources. And then number 3 for our cycling women is low progesterone. So in our menstrual cycle, we get our period. That's day 1 of your cycle. Estrogen rises really high. We usually sleep pretty well then. We ovulate. Those hormones kind of drop off. Ovulation triggers a hormone called progesterone, which is also known as progestation. So in this luteal phase between ovulation and the start of your cycle, we produce this hormone progesterone in addition to some estrogen too, in case we might be pregnant. Progesterone, though, doesn't just hold a baby, and it's not just good for our menstrual cycle. It's immensely good for a bunch of other things, including our nervous system function, our stress response, and sleep. So progesterone also acts on what's called your GABA neurotransmitters in your brain, which is sort of like the antidote to adrenaline. It makes you feel calm, less anxious, sleep better, does all kinds of great things. Progesterone also works on our adrenal glands, which, kind of going back to number one with the cortisol, is going to help regulate your stress response so that your cortisol is not just running rampant, which will make you sleep better. Progesterone we want in a really great amount, which will deplete faster through age if we're in the perimenopausal phase or through stress. So my suggestion with the progesterone conversation is in your luteal phase, about 5 to 7 days after you think you ovulate, go get a quick test for progesterone. You can do it saliva-based through home-based testing. You can do it in a blood test, or you can do it in a Dutch test through urine testing. I can help you with that if you need questions answered about testing. I help a lot of women with that, but you really do have to check progesterone 5 to 7 days post ovulation to get an accurate number on how much progesterone your body's producing at its peak, which is what we want to know. Other signs of low progesterone can be more anxiety, moodiness, irritability before your period, spotting before your period, heavy periods. We talk about estrogen dominance a lot with low progesterone, which I did a video about that I'll link here in the description below as well. But just know that low progesterone, if you're noticing that right before your menstrual cycle, like in a week or two before your menstrual cycle to even a few days, it just depends on the woman, you may be dealing with low progesterone, in which case working on balancing your progesterone, which I've done a lot of videos all about progesterone and what to do naturally to heal that, as well as working on your stress response, is going to be beneficial. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. That is a basic way of explaining how hormones can impact sleep. I talk about this with women all the time. For all of our type A perfectionists out there, like me, sleep can be hard to get sometimes when the stress response and nervous system is really elevated. So kind of going back to number one, work on those things. I think that's probably the most common thing for most women. I also have a program called Heal Your Hormones Masterclass, which goes over all of this. Sleep is my second pillar to hormone health. It's imperative for our hormone health. We need to sleep to reset insulin, to reset our nervous system, to produce good hormones like growth hormone, to do anti-aging things, to detox, does a myriad of different things. And if we're not sleeping, we're not doing a great job at getting all of those things done. So in Heal Your Hormones, I talk all about this and how hormones play a role in our sleep, as well as what to do for sleep, sleep hygiene, tips and tricks. So if you're interested in that, go to allydamron.com/heal to learn all about your hormonal imbalances, which ones you're struggling with, and my 5 holistic pillars to balancing your hormones. If you found this helpful, also you can share with family and friends who need this information. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit that button to be notified anytime I post new content related to women's health, hormones, and holistic health. I'll see you guys in the next one.